What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy D Dyson. Narcos, Mexico, Season 2. Just got done finished with it last night, and I must say I have been pleased. Narcos has never let me down when I watch it, especially from Narcos Mexico Season 1 till now. Because, like I said, in Narcos Season 1, I've never seen the Mexico cartel. I've never seen how their story unfolded. I've never seen how they got into power and how, like, just, all I knew was Chapo. So that's all we ever known. So I'm happy to see that the whole story is fleshed out. So the beginning of episode 1, you show Agent Walt Breslin, the DEA, going to kidnap the doctor who was keeping Kiki Camarena alive. So it shows how the DEA was avenging Kiki Camarena's death and trying to go after all the major players that was involved to see who is ultimately responsible for Kiki Camarena's death. So when you started from that fact that it started with the DEA agent, you know that's right where it left off in the end of Season 1, because you get introduced in San Diego to Agent Breslin, and I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but obviously he was the agent that was in charge of trying to find out who was responsible for Kiki Camarena's death. So you started with that fact, and then it goes into how lavish, Felix was, and how he was just like, he was on top of his game. Like, man, he's the one who's, leader of the Guadalajara cartel. So he just going full-fledged into this party. Like, hey, it's his birthday party. Chapo and Cocho Loco, they bought him a tiger for his party, and that's at that same party, that's where you start seeing the problems that the cartel had, with the Tijuana family not getting their cut, as far as, hey, we're dealing with Sinaloa, because, and it never occurred to me why they had problems until Narcos. I mean, I've watched El Chapo on Netflix, but they were just always starting with the beef. So now I get to see why the beef was starting. They were just messing with each other, and knowing that the Tijuana controls the border, Sinaloa has no other way to get their coca out was through Tijuana. So they will always mess with them, like, hey, you guys are weak, and it's like, so they'll always go back and forth pity parties, and at that party, Tijuana was like, man, we getting tired of this, I'm like, you have to do something about this. And as far as how Felix was going about it, Felix started becoming more ambitious. Like, man, that ain't my problem. Like, I'm like, hey, solve it, shut up, leave me alone. Like, I don't have time for this, and that to me came back later to bite him in the ass. Like, when you become too ambitious and you start looking at yourself like, I'm invincible, I can do it all by myself. And even when he told Pacho, he was like, man, like, you gotta make these deals with your partners. And Miguel was like, man, they not my partners, they're employees. And I'm just kind of like, man, like, you are really digging your grave. Like, and you see at the beginning that they had money issues, that they had been getting all the coke out, shipping it to the U.S. because at this time, Colombia, had problems, especially after Pablo's death, how they were going to get the coke to the U.S. So they had to ship it to Mexico because it's not far, and Mexico would play the middleman to get it to the U.S. And because of Agent Camarena's death, that put a huge target on Miguel Felix's back from U.S., from everyone, the Colombians, other cartels. They're all kind of like, I don't want to work with you because you got too much heat on you. So the Cali cartel was looking at Felix like, we can't work with you. You're not getting money. And they owed Felix and the Guadalajara cartel $250 to $280 million. Like, you're not getting your money. we're going to starve you because you got too many problems. We give you this money, you're going to go crazy. You're going to be feeling like you can do whatever. So we're not going to give you the money, but just continue to make the coke. And that's why Pacho was putting Miguel in a corner, like, I don't care what you do, go to war with us if you want to. You're going broke. So I know you're not going to want a war. But what we can do for you is give you more coke, move the coke, and just like he told him, coke moves faster, money moves slow. So more coke, then we'll pay you later. We'll pay you when we feel like it. So Felix had no other alternative to be like, man, whatever. So his motive after that party was, all right, well, since you're going to be like that, then I have to find a way to put the Colombians out of business. Like, we're going to control everything. We're going to grow it. We're going to manufacture it. We're going to ship it. We're going to sell it. So Felix, I understand from that point and his perspective of like, man, you can't have us dangling on a string. So you have to have a master plan to get them out of business. So what Felix does is go to the Gulf Cartel, which is Don Juan Guerra, old guy. You could tell he's like the old, mafia godfather. If you guys watch Godfather 2, he reminds me of that godfather that was in Corleone. He's just kind of like, just a big guy, just like, hey, and he had to go to him to strike up a deal. It's like, hey, we're going to put the Colombians out of business if you work with me. And this is my proposition for you. It'll be more money than you ever seen. So, of course, as a power move, Don Juan is like, okay, I'll work with you. So he was like, I'm going to strike a meeting to go to Panama to meet with Cali and the cartels. And it's like, hey, we're going to tell them we're putting them out of business. So Felix does that. He goes to Panama with Amado, and Don Juan doesn't show up. So when Pacho gets there, he tells him, hey, yeah, Don Juan struck a deal with me, and he's working with me. So it put more pressure on Felix, and that's when Pacho's like, well, since you're trying to do that, then we're going to give you a shipment. Here's a shipment, quick, fast, in a hurry. And he's kind of like up Shit's Creek, like, man, I can't handle that because, the plazas are not happy. You're moving all this coke and you're not getting paid for it. So I don't know. And like I said, the Cali cartel is playing like a cat and mouse game with him. Like, I'm gonna overwhelm you so that your people will come after you because you're doing too much. You're making promises you can't keep, and you're just overall doing too much. So of course, Felix is like, I'm gonna go with it. I'm like, whatever shipment you got, I'll be ready for it. He's chill's trying to feel like he's staying on top of, he's staying ahead of the game. Like, okay, I have to make sure that I'm doing this right just to please them. You get back and you see Pablo Acosta like, man, I don't want to be having anything to deal with this. I don't want to mess with this. I don't want to be around anymore. I don't want to be a cartel. I just want to live life. He's met Mimi, who was a white girl from Texas. Her uncle is a senator, best friends with Ronald Reagan. So she's highly protected and showing him a different side of life. Like, man, you don't really have to be doing this. I know that, this is your whole life. You don't have to be doing this. So Amado has to track him down. And just through the storyline with Pablo, he's just everywhere of, I don't want to do this anymore. So eventually he goes to a newspaper, tells it all, like, hey, this is what's going on. Because he felt like he's tired of it. Like, in the beginning, we were just moving weed. That's when I was like, I'm good. I smoke weed, I'm good. But now you got the coke coming in, and it's turning devils everywhere, like especially Felix. And one thing about Pablo, although he was so old school, I remember in season 1, I was like, dude, you just a headache to deal with. But I remember what he said to Amado was, hey, screw Felix. Felix is a crook. I'm a bandit. And Amado was like, man, it's the same thing. He's like, no, it ain't the same. He's like, no, cabron, it's not the same thing. And I was like, understanding that, because that's what Pablo has said too in Narcos season 1. I'm a bandit. And eventually, that was when Pablo was starting out, and then he turned into a crook. Meaning that a bandit is an outlaw. Like, I'm doing this to make money because I'm from the barrio. I'm a poor boy, kind of like that Cinderella story. And a crook is someone who's a snake, pretty much, ratting out everybody, saving his own skin, not having loyalty, just doing anything for $1 to make sure that, this is how he needs to operate. And that's why Pablo was like, I'm sick and tired of it. I don't want to deal with it, because he will set up anybody he can to save his own ass. And I love the scene where, Felix finally goes and see Don Neto. And he's trying to, understand, like, man, you was one of the smartest guys here. I don't understand, what's going on. So Neto is explaining to Felix, man, we hear a lot. You're in jail. You're eventually going to be here. If you don't stop what you're doing, you're going to be here. And you don't want to be in this one because Rafa's here, and you already know what you did to Rafa. Like, you sold Rafa down the creek, just to save your own skin. Like, you made us go to jail, and you protected your political friends. So Miguel has no other alternative but to find more powerful friends and the political party. And that's where things were kind of picking up, because I felt like this season dragged a lot because there was a lot more dialogue than, action. And you see how the DEA was trying to get into understanding when they found the enforcer who was torturing Kiki Camarena, and they tortured him. He finally cracked, and they sent him up to the border, and the cartel still got him. So they were all trying to just find a cat and mouse. And then, like I said, with this season, more than last season, you had so many different characters, so you couldn't get attached to anyone. But one person in particular, when you saw Chapo, you just knew, and you just like, I'm paying attention to every scene Chapo was in. And even the guy who's playing Chapo, I'm like, I like this dude. I really do. Like, he just embodied Chapo to me. I'm like, this is a underling who's going to grow into becoming who Chapo is. Like, everybody knows Chapo, but you just see him working his way up. And you seen him even back then digging those tunnels. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was like, he already had that idea way back then. And then that's further pushed the war with Tijuana. One thing I couldn't understand was what made me mad, first off, when I saw Quavo in there. I was kind of like, Quavo, man, really? I mean, I get that you made the song Narcos and White Tee and all that other stuff, but I'm like, Quavo, bro, really? You're representing a 80s crack dealer from LA. And I'm like, then you made, we cooking it like stir fry. I'm like, come on, man. Like, that to me threw me kind of out of it. Like, it doesn't even feel authentic anymore, and then, but the thing about that was when Ramon hit that crack, I was just like, yeah, you could tell he wasn't right no more, and it made me mad, because one thing about Ramon was when he was going into the park, and shooting those fish in the tree in the middle of a park with all these families and kids, they never addressed what was really wrong with him. The sister was like, oh, he's fine. He's doing fine. That's it. So they never addressed that. That kind of made me mad. I'm like, why'd you set that up in the beginning of the episode when there was nothing really going to go take place after that? It just made him like, hey, that's just what he's doing, and it never showed him hitting crack again. I feel like when you hit crack, you're going to continue to hit crack. That's what he wants. So that's why I'm just kind of telling myself, I'm like, yeah, that was a dead end. But at the same time, like I said, I'm like, fast forwarding to when Palma from the Sinaloa cartel started plotting against Gallardo, because he got tired of, hey, we're doing all this quote unquote slave work and we're not getting paid for it. So he's over here telling Don Juan, like, man, we gotta get him out of here. Like, we gotta kill him. So they put a hit on Felix's life when he came back from Panama. He was just like, man, I don't know who the hell's trying to kill me. So, Azul is over here trying to find out, man, what's going on, what everyone is doing. And that particular part, I was kind of like, man, who is trying to kill him? Like, I'm like, who could it be? Because you got so many enemies. And when Felix got wind that it was Palma, like, man, I heard him conspiring against me, and the Juarez cartel had got that tape, and I was kind of like, yeah, this is going to get bad. So Felix banished him out of the Federation, and Palma went on the run. So his wife and kids went on the run, but Felix had planted his driver to be a mole, like, hey, go over there and, go assess the issue and see what's wrong. So the driver was over there trying to see what's wrong with Palma, like, hey, you got to go, and eventually falls for his wife. Sleeps with his wife, and eventually, like I said, towards the end, murders his wife and then throws the kids over the bridge. I was like, this is insane. But I do remember that in Chapo on Netflix where they cut the woman's head off and then threw the kids, and he videotaped all of it and sent it to Palma. And I was kind of like, man, this is that's true gruesome cartelism right there, And I just loved it because even with Amado, it just kind of really put me in the stance of, man, these characters are really at war with each other and trying to figure out what's everyone's motive. Even with Sandra Beltran's character, I can't think of her name like in this one, but when she was moving to coke in Tijuana, she formed a partnership with the sister. She did a thing, and then they eventually turned on her because it was like, man, you can't move. I feel like she was the one who introduced coke pretty much to Felix, like, hey, you know what I'm saying? This is what it is down there. And she was one of the pioneers of doing that, but they would never grant her her own plaza, her own territory, because she wanted Tijuana. And knowing that the brothers and that family's there, she can't have it. So she's operating on her own, with her own plug, moving it through them. So eventually at the end of the season, I think episode 10 is that they just turn on her like, man, look, you can't move, that dope in our plaza anymore, so get out of here. So they arrested her. And just one of the most exciting scenes in Narcos was when they were trying to find Pablo Acosta in Santa Elena and how he just has a shootout with the federales. I was like, man, this dude had the whole town just man, whoever's an able-bodied man, you're gonna be shooting at these planes. And I was like, man, they were shooting. And I was like, dang, that's really how they get some of these cartel members out of there. And he was, in true fashion, he was really like, I'm a bandit to the end. I'm like, although I'm trying to change, I'm trying to get out of here. He tried to sign the deal. He was just like, man, I'm trying to get out of here. But he knew in his mind, ain't no getting out. This is the only way to get out. And I see how he ended, and they stuck true to the source material of that's really how he got killed. Like he went out in the blaze of glory, like one of the last ones to go out like that, and he really went out like that. So I was like, damn. And then Amado, just kind of seeing how all this unfolded, I never expected Amado. When he got those commercial flights and those commercial planes, I was like, damn, this dude is moving heavyweight, like. And just at the end where the DEA puts those tracking devices in those planes, he eventually finds it. The federale, turncoat agent doesn't tell him that they found it because Agent Breslin wasn't telling him all the information that he knows. He lets him go. So therefore, his, Agent Breslin in the DA's last play was to let's go intercept that coke, because if Felix is moving 70 tons of coke, if we mess that up, he's dead either way. Either Colombians are going to get him or his own people is going to get him. So he's going to be dead either way. So they thought they were trying to run into it, trying to burn it, and eventually they open it and taste it, and it's like, it's not even coke. So they ran to an ambush. The DEA ran into the ambush, and I'm just looking at, dang, Amado was just in Colombia, like, yep, he in the warehouse, like, I'm gonna get this in the morning. I was like, wow. So that forced Felix to be like, man, you are the man. You know what I'm saying? You did something that nobody else could, and everybody knew it. All the plazas knew it. Like, man, this dude really made a move without letting us know, without talking to us about it. I thought we were partners. Here he is hiding shit again. And here's Don Juan, like, man, you can't have this dude do that. Otherwise it's going to put him in complete power and he's going to run it all. But he does it. And eventually, when he does it, he sits down with the plaza bosses like, hey, this is what I've done. This is what I need to do. And I love, like I said, that last tail end where everyone's like, I'm out. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not following you because you don't like to listen to nobody and you're making moves on your own thinking that's good for us. Like, we don't work for you. We're partners with you. So eventually, Chapo is a representative of Sinaloa, and you seen, like I said, Chapo's rise. They call him, hey, the junior partner of the Sinaloa cartel bosses, El Chapo. And you start seeing his rise, like, we're out. You see Juarez, we're out. You see Tijuana's like, they're the first ones, man. We're doing our own thing. And everyone's leaving. And Felix is kind of like, all right, well, see how it is without me. And Amado was the last one, like, hey, just want to let you know, we cut a deal with Pacho. That was who called Pacho. And Pacho was like, man, how'd you get my number? And that was Amado. Like, man, the first one, we cut a deal with them because we ain't got time to be listening to you, bro, because you over here trying to make decisions thinking it's best for all of us when you're not even talking to us about it. On top of sending us coke, and then we're not even getting paid for it. So it's like, kind of like, man, your way is, you're too ambitious. You're thinking only about yourself. It reminded me of Ghost in last season of Power. That's kind of how Felix was doing with, his ambition got the best of him. And they eventually all say, we cut the deal. Felix, you're out. And I was like, wow. Even with Felix fixing the election, that was crazy. And that's to me, like I said, more resonating with what we're doing today in America, because the same things was going on just in a cartel style that is going on today. He fixed the election so that the PRI is the ones who, looked up to Felix, or the ones who was working with Felix to be like, hey, we could continue to do what we do. If the other party wins, we're all going to jail. So you guys should be thanking me for trying to do this, because if not, then we will all be in jail. So that's why I was kind of like, man, but at the same time, you need to talk to them about that. Be thorough with it, And eventually that causes his downfall. So at the end, you see Felix get locked up because the same people that he was trying to protect, the same people that he got in power as far as the PRI, they came after him and locked him up. And he let all the other Mexican state cartels become cartels. And I was kind of like, man. So I love the end where Agent Breslin got reassigned to Sacramento, and I was like, shout out to Sacramento. But he comes back, and then he goes to see Felix in jail, and Felix explains to him, hey, this is my plan. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, he was trying to make sure that it was under one person, because these guys are going to go to war. He said, you think that I was a problem? Wait until you see them. Now that you let the cage out and you let the animals run free, just wait. You're gonna miss me just being at the top, because I was confining them all. And he pointed out how everyone's gonna go to war. Sinaloa's gonna go to war with Tijuana. The Gulf is gonna sit back and watch. They think they're gonna have power. Then they're eventually going to get ran out. And then Amado is going to be one of the largest drug traffickers in the country. He's going to look at it until somebody gets bold enough to kill him. Guess who's going to run it afterwards? So therefore, you're going to have bloodshed all the time. I was the one keeping it all in line. Now that you're about to see how bloody these cartels can be. Setting up for, because he got caught in '89, setting it up for Narcos Mexico Season 3 in the 90s. And from my understanding, that was some of the bloodiest times in Mexico and even around that border dealing with the cartel. So I love this setup for Narcos Season 3, Narcos Mexican Season 3, because it's slowly showing the incline of how Chapo really became into power, becoming the world's largest, most powerful drug lords other than Pablo Escobar. I love it. I give this a 9 out of 10, only because when I watched it, some of the subtitles wasn't catching up to what they were saying. So I couldn't follow along with the conversation they were having. I mean, that's just on me. I'm learning Spanish, so this is a great way to learn Spanish, just to kind of follow along with what they're saying. But that was a problem I had with this. On top of the episodes dragging because of the dialogue instead of action to keep you engaged. Things picked up around episode 6, 7, and then it's kind of like, okay, you should have kind of had this a little bit earlier. But like I said, Pablo Acosta's shootout with the Federales was one of the highlight action series and all of Narcos, because you never seen a narco really go out like that. Like, all the other ones just got caught and went to jail. He was the only one like, I'm going out in the blaze of glory, so that's why I give it a 9 out of 10. But like I said, I love it. Narcos always delivers. Always. So, if you guys enjoyed my review of Narcos Mexico Season 2, subscribe to my channel, post a comment down below, and like the video. It's your boy, D. Dyson. Peace.